My family told me I'd make the wedding uncomfortable. They didn't say it like an insult, more like a truth already decided. My mother's voice was steady. My sister's fiancé smirked behind her. Just try not to ruin your sister's day this time, okay? She added. Like shaming me was some kind of kindness. No arguments, no outbursts, just quiet exile disguised as civility. I watched them drive off that morning, the car overflowing with roses and promises. I didn't go after them. I stayed home, tracing sunlight across the floorboards, trying to understand how family could celebrate by erasing one of their own. That night, the news hit and their perfect day went up in flames. I grew up in a house where silence passed for affection, where my mother's approval came as a nod, and my father's praise as a fixed smile. My sister, Nyla, was the golden one, the one everyone hurried to protect, even from her own mistakes. I was the fixer, the one who cleaned up the messes, who made things look perfect again before anyone else noticed the damage. Maybe that's why I became a restoration contractor. I like mending what others broke, old houses, furniture, sometimes people. When Nyla announced her engagement, I tried to be happy for her. I really did. I helped pick her flowers, measured the yard for extra seating, even paid the venue deposit when her card got declined. I told myself that's what family does. But as the wedding neared, my place started to fade. The group chats went silent. The planning calls accidentally happened without me. At first, I thought it was just a mistake. Then I realized it wasn't. Mom became the messenger, calling with that overly careful tone she used whenever she'd already decided something for me. It's going to be a small ceremony, she said. We just want everything peaceful. Peaceful for who? I asked. She sighed, already tired of me. Just try not to ruin your sister's day, okay? That line sat heavy in my chest. I wanted to ask when I'd ever ruined anything. If covering Nyla's debts, babysitting her kids, or co-signing her failed cafe loan counted as sabotage. But I didn't. You can't fight a battle they pretend doesn't exist. A week later, I drove to my parents' house to drop off some tools Dad needed. The house looked exactly the same, Victorian trim, chipped paint, curtains always closed. Inside, Mom was arranging white roses in a vase. For the rehearsal dinner, she said. The kitchen smelled like vanilla candles and control. Your sister's dress fitting is tonight. You could come, if you promise not to make things uncomfortable. I almost laughed. In my family, the line between an invitation and an insult was razor thin. Don't worry, I told her. I won't make anything uncomfortable. Her smile tightened, guilt and relief sharing the same expression. That evening, I stood on my porch watching the sun sink behind the Rockies, the air sharp with pine and oncoming rain. I thought about how easily people rewrite history, how my absence would soon become proof that I didn't care, not the result of being told not to show up. Somewhere, music was starting, a celebration I helped build but wasn't welcome to see. Maybe silence really was love in my family, or maybe it was just a prettier word for erasure. The day before the wedding, my phone buzzed with pictures I wasn't supposed to see. My cousin had posted a rehearsal selfie. My parents front and center, Nyla in white. Travis beside her with that salesman grin that always came with hidden terms. The caption read, "Tomorrow's the big day." Everyone looked radiant. Everyone except me, because I wasn't there. I told myself, "You're missing out," the text said. The ballroom looks unreal. Best wedding of the year. I scrolled through photo after photo, silver cutlery gleaming, my family laughing, champagne flutes lifted high to new beginnings. Then one message broke through the noise, a direct text from Mom. "Hope you understand why we thought this was best. We love you." No period. No heart emoji. Just a sentence, cold, final, and tidy. I set the phone down and stared at it. Outside, the rain thickened into a steady curtain. Drops streaked down the glass, like the house itself was crying. "I didn't go," I whispered. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for choosing myself. Still, guilt has a way of sneaking in through silence. By 10, I'd paced half the house, checking locks, straightening tools that didn't need straightening. Every sound made me jump. The thunder, the creak of the floorboards, Each one sounded like footsteps, like ghosts I couldn't shut out. I sat on the floor beside my half-packed toolbox, the scent of varnish clinging to my hands. If I had gone to the wedding, what then? Would they glare? Would Nyla cry? Would Travis smirk and call me dramatic? I picture myself standing outside those ballroom doors, unseen, yet somehow still in the way. No, not this time. I'd spent my entire life repairing what they broke, covering their mistakes, pretending things were fine. But families like mine don't crave peace. They crave submission dressed up as forgiveness. I closed my eyes and listened to the storm clawing at the roof. Somewhere in that chaos was freedom, the kind that only comes once you stop begging to be included. Down the street, a transformer burst, plunging the block into darkness. My reflection disappeared from the window, and for a moment, it was just me and the relentless drumming of rain. Maybe this is what starting over sounds like, I thought. But peace never lasts long in my family, because a few hours later, when the lights came back, so did the world. And it was burning. That night, the storm finally broke. Lightning split the sky, white and violet. I lay on the couch, the TV murmuring in the background, some home renovation rerun I wasn't really watching. I told myself I didn't care what was happening at Ridgewood. I'd done the right thing. Staying away was strength. Then my phone began to buzz once, twice, then endlessly. At first, I ignored it. Probably more photos, more proof of what I wasn't part of. But the vibrations wouldn't stop. Calls, messages, notifications from people I hadn't heard from in years. I grabbed the phone. The screen glowed with panic. Are you seeing this? Oh my God, turn on channel 9. Rose, it's your sister. Something happened. My stomach dropped. I switched to the local news. The footage was shaky, shot by a guest's phone. The headline read, "Breaking. Violence erupts at Ridgewood." For a second, I thought it was wrong. Then I saw her, Nyla, my sister, in her white satin gown, makeup streaked, hair undone. She was screaming. Across from her stood Travis, the man of easy smiles and polished charm, his face twisted, red with rage. He shouted something, his words lost under the crowd's roar. Then he raised his hand. The slap cracked through the speakers, so loud I flinched. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. The camera jerked. Someone screamed. Then static. The feed cut out. I sat frozen, wine glass trembling in my hand. Rain hammered the roof like applause from another world. My phone lit up again, Mom calling. I didn't answer. The call went to voicemail. Then another. Then another. I stared at the rising number of missed calls, each one a small, frantic apology. Finally, I played one. Her voice came through, fragile, breaking. "Rose, please. Your sister's hurt. She needs you. We're at the hospital. Please come." I pressed the phone to my chest, breathing shallowly. For years, that had been my role. To rush in when everything fell apart. To clean. To fix. To forgive. But something inside me shifted that night. They'd warned me I'd ruin the wedding. Turns out, they didn't need my help for that. I lowered the TV volume. The news anchor kept speaking, alleged assault, charges pending, but it all felt distant, muffled, like background noise. I walked over to the window. The rain had stopped. The pavement outside shimmered beneath the streetlights, quiet, rinsed clean. I could have grabbed my keys, driven to the hospital, sat by Nyla's side the way I always did. I could have stepped right back into being the reliable one. But what difference would it make? I hadn't been invited to her happiness. Why should I be summoned to her collapse? My reflection stared back from the glass. Pale, tired, steady. "Not this time," I whispered. The phone buzzed again. Another call. Another chance to play the same old part they'd written for me. I hit silent and placed it face down on the table. The house went still again, just the clock ticking, somewhere faint sirens echoing in the distance. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The morning after the wedding, the sunlight felt wrong, too bright, too normal for what had happened. I woke to a flood of messages, headlines, and countless versions of the same video. It was everywhere, on TV, online, even looping silently on a cafe screen when I went for coffee. Local wedding ends in assault. The captions read, replaying the same grainy clip again and again. In the footage, Dee's white gown looked nearly transparent under the chandeliers. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Travis's shout was muffled, but the crack of the slap was unmistakable. Every time, the crowd's gasp cut through the air. Sharp, collective. A bouquet hit the floor. Champagne spilled. Cameras flashed. That's how it ended. They're forever captured in 30 seconds of chaos. By noon, the story had spread far beyond Denver. Every outlet recycled the same line. Prominent engineer assaults bride during Ridgewood estate wedding. Some tabloids tossed in mentions of family tensions. Others unearthed Nyla's failed cafe, framing her as unlucky in business and unlucky in love. As for me, I wasn't mentioned at all. And for once, I didn't mind disappearing. The first knock came that afternoon. I didn't need to check the peephole. Only one person knocked like that. 3 quick taps, 1 pause, 2 more. The rhythm of control. I opened the door. Mom stood there, pale, hair scraped into a messy bun that didn't suit her. She seemed smaller somehow, like public shame had pressed her spine inward. "Rose," she murmured, stepping inside before I could answer. "Your sister's resting. The police questioned Travis this morning." I folded my arms and nodded. "You should probably sit." She didn't. Instead, she went straight to the kitchen counter, the same place she'd once scolded me for not calling enough, and gripped its edge as if it could steady her. "It was awful," she said quietly. "He just snapped. No one saw it coming." I stayed silent. Her eyes flicked up. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But please, don't make this worse." That almost made me laugh. "Worse? You told me not to come." "I didn't. And it still turned into a disaster." "Tell me how that's on me." "I didn't say it was your fault. You didn't have to." For a while, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. Then she said softly, "Your sister's asking for you." I exhaled, trying to contain the swirl of emotions: anger, guilt, pity. "Of course she is," I said finally. "She always calls for me once everything's already broken." "Rose, please. She needs support." The press will move on," I cut in. "They always do. But you." I stepped closer. "You told me staying home was best. You said I'd ruin everything." She flinched. I was trying to protect her. "No," I said evenly. "You were trying to protect the illusion." Her eyes shimmered, but no tears fell. My mother never cried when someone could see. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table. The air still carried her perfume, lilac and guilt. For years, I'd convinced myself this was what love looked like in our family: selective, conditional, beautiful only when it needed to appear that way. But the truth was simpler. Love that demands silence isn't love. It's control. 2 days later, my father showed up. He didn't knock, just appeared in the doorway of my garage, wiping grease off his palms like he'd stepped straight out of one of his half-finished projects. "Your mom mentioned she came by," he said quietly. "She did." He nodded, eyes wandering across the wall of hanging tools. "You always kept things neat. Someone had to." He winced but didn't argue. "Your mother's taking everything pretty hard. She feels guilty." "She should," I replied. "She helped create this." He looked down. "Nyla's moving back in with them. The kids too." "Of course she is." "She wants to see you." I turned to face him. "And what about you, Dad? What do you want?" He hesitated. "I want peace." I shook my head. Peace isn't the same as pretending nothing happened. He didn't stay long after that. Just set a brown envelope on the workbench before leaving. Inside were copies of the loan documents, proof that the money I'd sent them for mortgage help had actually gone to pay off Nyla's business debts. Each page was a reminder of how deep the lies ran. I could have confronted them right then. I could have screamed, called the bank, filed a report for fraud. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I'd learned something. Revenge isn't about rage. It's about timing. So I waited. A week later, a local journalist reached out asking for a comment. "You're Rose Alvarez, right? The bride's sister?" she asked. "We've heard there's more to the story." I almost told her everything about the favoritism, the lies, the way my parents kept rewriting history every time Nyla messed up. But then I thought about what silence had done for me so far. It hadn't just protected me, it had exposed them. No comment, I said and hung up. That night, I drove past my parents' house. Reporters still crowded the sidewalk, cameras aimed at the porch light. Through the curtains, I saw Mom pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Dad sat at the table, shoulders slumped. Upstairs, Nyla's shadow moved, slow, uncertain. I didn't stop. I just kept driving. The next morning, I mailed the bank those documents. Not anonymously, not out of spite. Just truth, sent where it belonged. I didn't need to see what happened next. A month later, the house went quiet. No cameras, no parties, no Christmas lights that year. My parents sold the place. Nyla picked up 2 jobs, started paying her own bills. Little by little. No one thanked me, and that was fine. I wasn't looking for gratitude. Sometimes justice doesn't make noise. Sometimes it just gives you enough silence for the truth to echo. One evening, I sat on my porch, the mountains glowing pink under the sunset, a chill drifting through the air. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who fixed everything, who would have done anything to keep the peace. She was gone now, replaced by someone who finally understood that not every home deserves restoration. My phone buzzed. A text from Nyla. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad it was until it happened to me. I typed back, then don't repeat it. No lecture. No pity. Just a clean line drawn in the sand. When I set the phone down, the sky had turned deep blue and still. Somewhere behind those mountains, the Ridgewood estate stood empty. Flowers wilted, lights out, ghosts left to themselves. Their perfect day had burned to ashes. And for once, I wasn't the one holding the match. Months went by. The chaos faded like smoke after a fire. The scandal dissolved into silence, replaced by new headlines, new gossip. But I couldn't unsee what I'd learned, how quickly love turns conditional when control is threatened, how easily family confuses silence with forgiveness. The Ridgewood estate reopened for weddings that spring. I drove past one afternoon, just curious. The roses were gone, replaced by tulips. No trace of what had happened, just polished wood floors and freshly painted walls. It looked perfect again, flawless on the surface. But I knew better. You can scrub blood off marble. You can't wash guilt out of memory. Nyla stayed quiet for a while. She rented a small apartment, got a job at a florist, stopped expecting anyone to save her. When she sent photos of her kids helping unpack, I didn't feel bitterness, just relief. Maybe she'd finally learned what I had, that standing on your own hurts less than kneeling for approval. As for my parents, they sold the old Victorian house and moved somewhere smaller. No one told me where, and I didn't ask. Some doors, once shut, don't need to open again. On weekends, I kept working, restoring old homes, sanding away decay, uncovering beauty hidden under years of neglect. One afternoon, while polishing an oak banister, a simple truth hit me. I'd spent my entire life fixing things that were never mine to fix. Now, I only repair what I choose. Sometimes I still think about that night, the lights, the screams, the headlines, but not with anger, with clarity. Because the truth is, I didn't ruin their perfect day. They did. I just stopped pretending it was perfect. I used to believe love meant showing up, no matter how many times they closed the door. Now I know love also means walking away when the price is your peace. I still get messages from